Hey folks, I was going to post something on Schoology about this, but I thought it'd be quicker with a video. So I just want to go over question number 3 on the quiz and just give you some insight in what you should think about. I think it's a pretty unfair question, and I think it's one that's typical of College Board. They're asking you to infer a number of different things here without actually saying it, and it's kind of a stretch. So after you watch the videos back here, so you've watched this video, and I'm hoping that you can keep this table in mind. When she goes through this table, this is the important part of the whole thing to kind of pull back together. So she talked about how carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acids, and lipids all contain carbon, but that proteins and nucleic acids contain nitrogen, and nucleic acids additionally contain phosphorus. And then she went into some examples, but she didn't really show any formulas or anything like that, and that's where we're making a stretch here. So I'm just going to tell you a couple of pieces here that she didn't tell you that leaves you unprepared to answer this question. This first part here, part A, these do not contain nitrogen or phosphorus. If you look at the formulas for these, like there's C's and there's H's and there's O's, there's no N's or P's here. So that leaves us with the understanding that these are probably carbohydrates or lipids. You don't need to know much more than that. It's carbohydrates or lipids. This one here just has nitrogen added to it. So that one's going to be in that classification of proteins. Then we've got proteins, because it's the same thing as this thing, right? And then this one has phosphorus as well. So that's going to be a nucleic acid. Again, you don't need to be able to identify these structures quite yet, but you need to identify that there is a phosphorus in here. And so that should get your thinking to, that's got to be a nucleic acid. And then this one has nucleic acids. And then this one here is either a carbohydrate or a fat based on the fat, or a lipid, sorry, same thing. Carbohydrate or a lipid based on the fact that it only contains carbon and hydrogen and oxygen. Okay. Anytime you add nitrogen, it's either proteins or nucleic acids. If it's just nitrogen, it's proteins. And if you add phosphorus, it's a nucleic acid. Okay. So real quickly here, the key here is that they're expecting you, they're assuming that you can figure out, and I think it's a huge assumption and I think it's unfair. They're assuming that you can figure out that plants have access to water, which H2O, H's and O's, H2O, and carbon dioxide, CO2, C's and O's. So the C's, O's, H's, and O's from carbon dioxide and water can be rearranged into almost any organic molecules except for what? And that's what they're trying to get you to understand here with this question. So once again, they're assuming that you are going to make the jump that, well, shoot, plants can get C's, O's, and H's from their surroundings. What are the two things that they actually need to get from the soil? And that would be N's and P's. So that's why C is going to be your best answer here. Okay. So a really big stretch, an unfair question. I apologize for it, but I wanted to, instead of pulling it, I wanted to give it an explanation and get you to see kind of the logic behind it with the assumption that you knew the C's, O's, and H's could have come from the air and the water. All right.